You won't like this. I actually think they are.
Don't say it.
I'm going to say it. They are title contenders. Now, and hear me out. This is the reason why. This is the reason why. Ready? Ready, everybody? Let's do this. Well, I mean, and I don't think there's going to be any clear conclusions on this. But what I want to figure out, this season has been crazy, and there are so many different teams that are having, upturns in form, downturns in form. You've got a Liverpool team that look really strong, but have just been decimated by injuries, and a lot of teams that have kind of got a few new pieces and they're looking really good. And the reason I want to make this video and just talk about this, explore this with you, Rambo, is because Spurs won against Man City. And then the first question that came into my mind was, are Spurs title contenders now? Because I think at the start of the season, in terms of people that you put forward, I think they weren't in the conversation. I think it was Liverpool, Man City, and Chelsea. I think that was it. But now, when you look at the table, I think there are a lot of different options. So all I want to figure out in this video is who the contenders are. And so I've got the table here, and we kind of look. We can look at it, and I've got FB Ref is there if we want to look at like XG or bits and pieces like that, which is cool. Because I think, look, we've got 9 games now. Often people say it's only up to about 10 games you can start to suggest who is a title contender and who is not. And the other thing that I want to kind of set up before we really get into it is that what I want to put forward is the question, could this team, insert team here, win the league? Now, that's if the stars align, because the stars have to align for any team to win the league. Okay? And we'll get to Liverpool at the back end of this, because I think obviously they're one of the favourites. And Rambo, you're a Liverpool fan, so I want to hear about that. But what could happen is that Liverpool's injuries do hurt them, and I think that's got to be a big part of it for one of these other guys to have a chance. But if we look at this table, then Rambo, here it is, current table. Mm-hmm. I'm going to go, I don't know how far you want to go down with this, because let me go to FB Ref, because I think I might have set everyone up. No, I didn't. So, but we can do it this way. Look, here we go. I clicked on the teams here we go. So having a look at this isn't the Premier League table right now, but if you look at the Premier League table, obviously there's teams that are up there that we weren't expecting. You've got the big 6, Liverpool, Spurs, Chelsea, Man City, Man United. Am I missing anyone? I don't think I am missing anyone. Am I? Arsenal.
Tottenham.
Have I not put Tottenham in here? There you go, Tottenham. Sorry, I skipped them as well. So you got your top 6, right? But then I started to go look at the Premier League table and who else is knocking about up there. So let's go in order. First of all, let's go in order with the Premier League table. Where is it gone? I'm losing my way here. Because at the bottom of all of this, right, out of these top 6, you've got Man City. So first question is, I know Man City can win the league, but are they actually right now still title contenders? Because at the moment they've got 12 points, they've got a minus goal difference, and they're no way near the team that we expected to see this season. A team that I put forward to win the league, and I'm still expecting them to find their groove. But I almost feel like they need to bounce down into games against teams that and just decimate one team to kind of get that groove back. Because up till now, I've seen very little that would suggest that this team is good enough to get anywhere near winning the title. This Man City team at the moment, you still there, Rambo? It's just disappeared.
Yeah, I am. No, I'm there.
Your video's gone.
Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on.
That's so funny.
Hold on, I'll be back in a sec. You can continue. I'm still here. I'm listening.
Right, I'll stay with me then. This Man City team looks like the Man City team from the first year of Guardiola. They look a little bit lost. They do look a little bit lost. And if it doesn't turn soon, they're going to be so far adrift from the table. That's so funny. There you are. What's going on with your camera? They're so far adrift.
It's just literally just...
Can you turn it off and turn it on?
Yep. Yeah, yeah. It's going to take about 30 seconds. You can keep it rolling.
Okay.
I trust you.
Right, that's fine. So, little catty Rambo. What are your thoughts on Man City? Would you still consider them title contenders right now? Is it too early to discount them?
Do you need my video for this?
It's all right. You talk. You'll come back, I'm sure.
Do I discount them as title contenders? No, because the league is built on consistency. We've seen they've played 8 games. If they win the next one, they're on 15 points and up to 7th. So that changes everything. I also look at the fixtures and I think Burnley and Fulham, they might not win both, but I think the way the league is going, the only team that's truly consistent are Liverpool and Spurs. But Spurs and Chelsea go head to head next game, and I'm sure we'll talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
I just think with Manchester City, you just cannot rule out a side that has De Bruyne, Aguero, Foden, all these great players. Sterling as well. We're still waiting for Sterling to arrive to the scene. We're still waiting for De Bruyne to find full form. We're still waiting for Foden to get more minutes. I still think for some bizarre reason, Pep's trying to figure out what his best 11 is. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, I personally feel like a lot of people could go, this is your best 11. You've got to play this team every single week. I don't really know what he's playing at in that sense, but he obviously knows more than us. I think, like you said, I definitely agree that I think they're waiting to batter someone. And I feel like that team that could batter would be Fulham in 2 weeks' time. And then I think it'll be sound. But then the problem for them is they go and play Manchester United, and that's a fixture Ole Gunnar Solskjaer loves and Pep Guardiola doesn't like as much. I don't know. I backed them to win the league at the start of the season. For me, I cannot rule out Man City because they've got immense quality. And eventually, they are going to get it right. There's just no way a team with that many top players don't get it right eventually.
Rob Turner's saying in the chat that they could win 20 games on the spot, and I'm sure they could do.
Yeah, no.
I've got to be honest, and obviously there's that recency bias with them losing that game. I think I'm gonna hold tight and go, yes, they are still title contenders because it has been so crazy so far. But if they didn't have the pedigree that they'd had before now, I think we would be looking at this and going, something's missing. Something's missing so much that with it being a cup final for every team when they play against them, and I think that's always a thing worth remembering, and that will be an advantage to some teams and other teams, the mental state you go into a game and also the tactical state that you go into a game. I'm really struggling to believe in Man City right now, but I think, like you say, give them these 3 games and see where they are. But if they don't do it then there he is. Then it's curtains for them soon. Next up, Arsenal. Is there any way, shape or form that there is a possibility that Arsenal could somehow win the title?
No. They lack a number of things. I'd say the first thing they lack is goals. So they have Aubameyang who's in erratic form, playing off the left-hand side, which people thought he preferred but didn't actually. They still need to get a number 10 situation sorted out. They have one that they're not playing. They've got centre-backs in and out that they still need to get rid of. They're not very clinical. They're hoping their young players turn up every single week. There's just, like I think you've mentioned it before, and I've mentioned it as well, they're a few transfer windows away from getting things right. Whether Arteta gets that time, because I literally heard this weekend Arsenal fans calling for his head. That is not the fix. That is definitely not the fix. You can't get a manager that young in and go, we want success straight away. Look at how much Lampard spent.
They haven't got the cash. They haven't got the cash either. That's the thing.
Yeah,
I don't think we need to touch on Arsenal for too long. Do you know what I mean? Because I think it's glaring here. I've got on Understat. I know people always ask what website. This one's Understat. This is expected goals, and you can see them right down, pretty far down the bottom there. And that's the big thing. They don't score enough goals. They are nowhere near title contenders this season. But I'm kind of just touching on because in terms of the big 6, they're kind of in that world. Man United, I'm going to jump past Crystal Palace. Like, total respect to Crystal Palace, not going to win the league. Manchester United, is there any way, shape or form, that they could win the title? Is that squad anywhere near good enough? And I think the thing to remember with this, and people won't like this, but it is important, is that, like I said, with when you're playing Man City, it's a cup final. Like, I've seen it at a lower level with QPR when we had all this money, we splashed all this money, and then we're in the Championship, And it same goes. Any team that comes down, it's a cup final against them, and any other team that plays against them, they raise their levels, and that's a problem that Man United will always have. So, is their squad good enough if everything clicks into gear for them to win the title? Are they title contenders?
Okay. So if we say Greenwood is fit and Martial finds form and Rashford finds form and Bruno continues his form and Pogba isn't in and out of the team and Donny van de Beek is in the team, all these factors have to come together for United to just about compete for the title. Not win the title, just compete. Because I still think defensively they're a mishap. Everyone's ready to make a mistake. Them names are ridiculous. I think, there's no disrespect to OGS, but I think if you gave them names, them set of players to a manager like Pep Guardiola, he gets more out of that team and they compete for the title. I think right now, OGS can't take this team to a title. So you're wincing a little bit, so I want to hear what you got to say.
No, I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, and I think it's a fair point to make that. For me, you go, right, what point am I going to make here? The point I zoned in on straight away was, for a team to win the title, you can't have to crowbar two defensive-minded players in that team. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know Liverpool have played with, three combative players, but they offered something both ways. At the moment, you've still got a team where he's trying to get in Fred and McTominay, or Fred and Vidic, or McTominay and Vidic, because he can't rely on his midfield to do enough of the work, and he can't rely on his centre-backs to deal with it on the other side of it. And when that happens, you're going to struggle to break teams down, and also you're kind of just carrying a bit of a passenger in those big games as well. And I kind of agree with you with Solskjaer. Like I say, I think he's an all right manager. I'm not sure how good a coach he is. But the thing for me is he's crowbarring. He's still crowbarring, and I don't think it's going to click enough for them to be able to devastate teams, which sometimes you need to be too good to win yourself a title. And I don't think they can win enough different games in different ways. That's the other thing.
I haven't seen in my lifetime, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, a manager win a league title and not have an identity. Every manager who wins a title, you know how they score goals, you know how they defend, you know how they win games. Every single week I watch Manchester United and I go, if they pass the ball to Bruno enough, they're probably going to win. You don't win league titles like that. That's the long and short of it. You will not win a league title doing that. Then that's my feeling. That's why I would discount United even competing. I don't think they're competitors. They're competitors for top four and within reason. And even then, I think it's going to be a stretch.
Okay. Yeah, and I think that's fair. Which is, it's not ideal. But I think is you also have the things with clubs where, especially big clubs, Liverpool did it all the time and Arsenal did it all the time. They'd go, this is the year we've made all these signings. Or generally, forget the signings. This is our year. Pressure's on for us this to be this year. It's November. We're not good enough. But we might still battle away. February. Now we're finished now. There's no pressure now. We can start to have some good form again. Finish the season well, and the cycle repeats. And I think that's where Man United are a little bit at the moment. They don't have until they have that midfielder who can sit at the at the base of it and dictate both with the ball and without it. I think that's the piece that's missing. If they had Thiago, I might actually think differently about him. Wolverhampton Wanderers. Yeah. Is there any way they can win the league?
No. I wouldn't spend too much time on Wolves. I think, I'm looking at like Raul Jimenez. He's not in the form he was last year. Their strength in depth. I mean, Connor Cody was missing against Southampton, and they look like a completely different team. So
it's expected goals
Wolves
for me.
Personally,
it's the expected goals.
Yeah. But also, if you're just comparing against the teams we're talking about, the current top four teams, I wouldn't put Wolves in that category. Not for a long time. And they probably have the best team right now that they're going to have for a long time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think unless something really changes in terms of, because they have a very clear identity, which I think gets them a lot, gets them quite far, which is great. But that, for me, the fact that look at the teams they're around when it comes to expected goals, third bottom in the league. I'm sure like expected goals against, let's sit up, they're probably quite high up on that, to be honest. They're ninth. Well, they're lower than ninth. So a lot of their games are really tight. But if you're going to win the league, I just think it's a little bit too much for them. They've found themselves being a little bit frustrated at times, haven't they?
You gotta, if you want to win the league, you gotta play to win games. I don't think they play to win every single game, which is probably why they score so many goals second half. I think someone said yesterday on TV, 63% of their goals since the start of this year, so since 2020, have been in the second half. So
yeah, which is a good strategy. It's a good identity.
Yeah.
But if they got to a point where, this is the thing as well, that's it. Once you get to a point where, say they got themselves up to first in the league, and everyone's like, oh, all these teams will start to just defend for their lives. And then will they be able to break them down as well? That's the problem. It's the changing of the mentality of the teams. You saw it a little bit with Leicester last season. Going back to this, let's run through a few quickly, because West Ham, I don't think we need to talk about. I think they're doing really well, but they're quite a defensive team. They play on the counter-attack. They're never going to win the league. It's just not going to happen. Aston Villa. Is there any Leicester vibes a few seasons ago? Any way, shape or form? No, he's not having it. Absolutely not. Okay.
They're just hot and cold, isn't it? Like, if you just look at this, they won 5 and lost 3. They're just like, they've scored 11. Is it scored 11? No, scored 19, conceded 11. They're just like, I sometimes I watch them and I think, you're a really good team, you know. And then the next week I'll watch them and I'm like, you're a really bad team, you know? And it's just like that level of erraticness. The league is built on consistency. I don't know how many times I've had to say this season when people say to me, you're mad for thinking all these teams are definitely out of it, considering the type of league we're in. The last 2 seasons, the league obviously hasn't been as chaotic as this season, but it's going to mellow down. Fans are going to come back in at some point next year properly to some extent. And things are just, even now, the results aren't completely abnormal. We've had an abnormal 7-8 game weeks, but now it's starting to become normal. So I think consistency is the key, and Aston Villa just don't have that consistency. And they concede goals, and stupid goals. I don't know what their XG is, you're going to have to tell me this, but they really concede stupid goals all the time.
Well, so I think the XG is worth looking at here, because I think generally as well, I think I'm really impressed with Villa. I think they've definitely made a huge step forward. For us to be talking about them even for a second is madness, really, if you think of where they were at, right? Expected goals against, they're doing okay, actually. Look, they're actually quite high up. They're sort of 4th on that.
Oh yeah, that's mad.
Yeah, so actually, I think that the problem I think is that 7-2. I mean, this is goals against, so this is fair, if you know what I mean. So actually, they're not conceding too many. They've been pretty impressive in that sense. The goals, expected goals as well. Actually, they're kind of 4th. I think that's where they'll kind of return to the mean. I don't think they'll actually. I think they might be able to. You might be able to stop them a little bit more, because I think teams will give them a little bit more respect. I think they'll have a really good season, and I think they'll be one of the teams of the season, but. It's, you know, there's leaps and there's flying. Like, I think it will be a little bit too much, because I still think the gap between their lesser players and, the lesser players of those top 6 sides is such a mile away that you just can't truly put them in the conversation. You can be helpful, you can be hopeful, and they can be excited and they can play with freedom, because I think they're going to be totally fine. They've got some good players, but I just don't see it happening. Everton.
And Melon Scams has just said something here. Sorry, Melon Scams has just said something here, which is exactly what I was thinking in my head. Madness. No, wrong comment. XG doesn't compensate for human behavior. That's what I'm saying. I agree. Listen, let's move on to Everton. I'm just going to say that.
You can go big. There's big pinches of salt, and I think the 7-2s with goals scored is a big part of Aston Villa's kind of XG story at the moment as well, in terms of goals scored. So I think they will return to the mean a little bit, or they'll calm it down a little bit. Yeah, Everton, Southampton. I feel like Southampton are doing bits this year. They really are. But let's go with Everton first.
I didn't even realise it was that high.
I think for Everton, I'm going to say it. You won't like this. I actually think they are.
Don't say it.
I'm going to say it. They are title contenders. Now, and hear me out. And this is the reason why. The only way they are title contenders, okay, is if that team that started the first 4 games stays fit for the entirety of the rest of the season, and they don't have cup runs elsewhere because they can just focus week on week on the league. That is why they are title contenders right now. Will it happen? Probably not. But if the stars align, they've got a shot. Not having it? Like this video if you're an Everton fan. Come on, give me that.
They just can't defend, and it's not even like a Liverpool-Everton thing. It's just I like Everton, which Liverpool fans give me a lot of stick for, in the sense of I like the team they have right now. Hammers is gorgeous, and I just think, look, in a Premier League season, to win a title, you have to be able to defend. They've conceded 16 goals this season. They scored 19, but they've conceded 16 goals. They conceded 2 against Fulham, and they're lucky not to concede more. They make mistakes at the back. There's a moment, where Iwobi was playing right wing back. Shouldn't have played there, but he's forced to play there. He's kicked it all the way back to Pickford from near the halfway line. It's bounced in front of Pickford. Pickford sliced it up in the air, and it's landed on Keane's hand. It's a free kick to Fulham, and they were on the halfway line the other end. That's a lack of maturity, but also just generally too much over-reliance on a couple of players to do things for them.
I agree.
They just concede too many goals. I would love to say they can compete. But if you take out, as soon as you take DCL out of that team, they're going to have to play Cenk Tosun up front. They're a completely different team.
I completely agree. I completely agree. But if everything came together, if absolutely everything came together, that squad's like, say like Leicester, the year Leicester won it, that is a team that if they are playing every single game, they're playing 1 game a week, it's that game. There's no international breaks till March. You've got all the other teams playing Champions League football, playing too many games of football. That team is left alone to just try and win their Premier League games. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying I'm saying there's like a 3% of me that the stars could align. That's all I'm saying. And that's what we're exploring here.
Bro,
that's what I'm saying.
But if I said like this, if the stars aligned for Southampton, they could win the league. If the stars aligned for Leicester, they could win the league. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think for me, so let's get into that. Because if the stars align for Southampton, I still don't think they've got enough. I think they're doing incredibly, but again, it's about jumps up. I think we've been waiting for Everton to do something for quite a while, and they have had high-profile players, and now he's got a better blend. But as soon as one player's out, you're screwed. Got it. But I think even if Southampton were all fit, and obviously they haven't got Ings for a little while now, but that's not important. Let's say Ings comes back, stays fit, keeps firing goals. I still don't. They could sneak 5th, maybe 4th. Like if it was chaos, and because this season has been chaos. That's why these teams are there. But I still don't think they can win. It's just my opinion.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't fancy Southampton to win the league. What I meant is like stars aligning. It gives a lot of teams a chance to win the league. But I think Southampton, to be fair, if you look at the goals conceded for them, it's quite harsh as well. Because wasn't the Spurs game, did they lose that like 6-0, was it? Or 6-1? So remember when Son scored
5.
4?
I think it might have been 5.
Oh, it's 5. So like they've conceded 5 goals in that. Was it? I feel like it was 6-2, wasn't it? Let's have a look.
Someone let me know.
I just want to have a look because Southampton, I can't spell it properly. It was 5-2. You're absolutely right. Well played. Yeah, I don't fancy him to win the league. The one above is interesting.
There we go.
Leicester is now we're getting to where it's getting hot. You know when you're looking for something in a room with your siblings and they're like getting hot, cold. I think we're entering the hotter region. Leicester's an interesting one because I thought before the Liverpool game we discussed this. Brendan got his tactics really spot on against Bielsa, so good against Arteta. The same against City. The same. He come up against Liverpool, and I thought Liverpool played well. I thought Liverpool played really well actually, but I still think Leicester just were too scared to have a go. They play that fixture like it's the first leg of a Champions League night, and they got a second chance, and they got it massively wrong. That, for me, was the defining game between them being title contenders and them just being another team competing for the top 4, in my opinion.
I hear what you're saying. For me, they are title contenders. If I'm playing by the criteria that I want to live by, which is me being super optimistic and it all coming together. like at the peak, at your ceiling, could you, and other teams, that's how Leicester won the league. You know, the points tally wasn't insane when they won it. You know, other teams had wobbles and it went wrong for them. And that's the thing with a season like this with so many games. Why, you know, Chelsea, we'll get into those big teams, but like when you've got European football, and that's the problem for Leicester, is that they do have European football as well. Yeah, but they've got a better squad than they've had before. Yeah. I agree with you. They need to be a bit braver in these games against some of these top teams, especially the Liverpools and Man Cities. But you're not gonna win a league or lose a league based on that one game against Liverpool. And I think that with the quality that they continue to bring in, Leicester could catch fire. They could catch fire. They could be title contenders. Again, we're being loose with it. This is what I'm trying to put forward. It's okay. Yeah. Everyone relax. It's okay to be... Why not? Why can't Leicester win it?
What I mean by that Leicester-Liverpool game is, like last season, remember last season people look back at that title-defining game when Liverpool beat Leicester. People said that was the moment Liverpool really became like champions. That's always one that refers to the Villa game. I'm referring to this Leicester-Liverpool game in the same way that I'm saying Leicester should have had a go. Liverpool were there to go at. Leicester just didn't dare do it. They sat in, they let Liverpool come on to them, and Liverpool punished them. Liverpool punished them badly. And I think we've seen it before as well. If Vardy isn't firing, Leicester have a big problem in front of goal. They need, if they go and get a striker, if they went and got Vinicius and Spurs didn't get Vinicius, I would have said Leicester have a better chance at becoming title contenders. But people were saying title contenders and getting offended when you rule teams out, like challenging for a title is a thing that you just do, just like going to church on a Sunday. Challenging for a title, think about the consistency of the last two seasons. They're competing with Liverpool, who are they're the absolute juggernaut. We're going to come to Liverpool, of course. Yeah. Spurs, who under Mourinho look different gravy, and Chelsea, who've spent more money than I can even count in my head. So, and Man City, who are going to arrive to the party at some point. And all again, that combined, Leicester.
This is why I wanted to talk about it now, because I think this conversation doesn't happen in 2 weeks' time, because I think people start to get cut adrift, and let's be really realistic if we want to be really boring, which is, I mean, go to another channel if you don't want to have like conversations about what could be, right? What will probably happen is that Liverpool will be 20 points ahead, or like, you know, and if you think of the amount of points that have been accumulated to win a title in the last couple of seasons, of course it's a shot in a million. But isn't that why we actually like watch football? Because Aston Villa can beat Liverpool 7-2. So all I'm saying is, if it all came together, you've got players in that Leicester team that I don't think have reached full potential yet. You've got players like Pereira who've not been playing. It could happen. Leicester could do it. Yeah. They probably won't, but they could. That's what I'm saying.
I got a question. So Demo's just said, I think Rambo's thinking of title contenders as a for sure top 3 team that could get first. Isn't that what title contenders are? Like teams that can finish in the top 4. Otherwise, just go. West Ham could be title contenders because like they're in the league anyway, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm saying that my title contenders are teams that are going to be at the top at some point during the course of the season and are in with a shout, not just like a team that might fancy it one week and not fancy it another week. That's what if I'm not wrong, that is the what's the word?
It's criteria kind of.
Yeah. There you go. You got it. See that?
Yeah,
See
I
that?
agree.
Doesn't matter if you're brown or white, you can still correlate on things.
And that's that. When I look at Everton or Leicester as a squad, I'm thinking about potential and how many of those players could be world-class players, and how many in that Southampton squad could be world-class players. I think there's more in the Everton and Leicester teams. And if they all became world-class for a season, you've then got a team of N'Golo Kantés and Mahrez's instead of Albrightons. As good a season as Mark Albrighton had, that team's still not going to win you a league. And that's what I'm trying to get at. Yeah, we love Mark Albrighton.
Do not disrespect Mark Albrighton.
I agree. So I'm saying Leicester
we're into
are...
the tasty part.
Here we go, let's get tasty. So top 3 in the Premier League as it stands. Chelsea, Liverpool, Spurs. Now, I think 2 of these are quite easy. The real talking point, I think, is Spurs. I think Chelsea are very clearly title contenders, in my opinion. I don't think they're the favourites. I think Liverpool are the favourites. I think it's actually Liverpool's to lose. And I've got to say how... I was like, wow. like with everything that's been thrown at them, and they still didn't wobble against Leicester City. It's really, they lose it. Well, not lose it, but it. So I don't know. If they don't win it this year, you're not like, oh, what a mess. You're just like, they've had a stinker with injuries. Like, they've been very hard done by. But I just think for them to be doing what they're doing right now, to be as consistent as they have been right now, I just think what an example of energy and character that Klopp brings that entire squad and football club. I think it's amazing. So I think they're obviously contenders, those two. Do you have anything that you want to say on Chelsea?
I think so. I'm still not sure if the Chelsea we're seeing right now is the very like pure version of Chelsea. And what I mean by that is like we've seen really bad Chelsea, and we're now seeing pretty good Chelsea. In my opinion, I'm actually going the other way. I'm quite sure on Liverpool and Tottenham. I'm not that sure on Chelsea. I'm interested to see what happens to Chelsea when they start conceding goals, because people right now are saying they're playing really well and they're not conceding goals. If I'm not wrong, they had a phase last year, where for 4 games they kept 4 clean sheets and they looked good and they looked solid. And then I think they got a red card, I want to say against West Ham. I think it was West Ham, and they lost that game 2-0. And everyone went, hold on a minute, these are actually quite ordinary. Now, obviously, the team's different, and I still think Chelsea are going to be in the top 4 for sure, and I definitely think they're title contenders. But I actually think Spurs have got the means and the manager, that's the key thing, the means and the manager to win the title and to go all the way, and to compete all the way, whereas I think Chelsea will have significant periods where they wobble a little bit. And that's how I'm judging who's going to win the title, who's going to compete. Are the teams who are going to have the longer wobbles, or the teams that are going to have less of a wobble? So I'm actually more sure on Spurs and Liverpool, ever so slightly.
Interesting. I mean, so I think they all 3 are contenders. I think Spurs arrived as contenders with the Man City game. I think that's what everyone was looking for. Like, can you go and beat a team that you're not expected to go and beat them quite comfortably, despite the shots and all that stuff, because that's not always the whole picture. And I think the respect that Mourinho is getting now. I was watching this documentary on Muhammad Ali and like the fights that he won, and like I'm not comparing Mourinho with Muhammad Ali, but in terms of what Muhammad Ali did to win boxing fights that really he shouldn't have won, because it got to a point where it wasn't as much about talent anymore. It was about strategy and grit and all those other little bits and pieces. I see that kind of vibe in Spurs. My head suggests that they'll get frustrated at some point, and this more careful, the over-reliance maybe on Kane and Son will mean that they'll drop a few points along the way. But I think they'll get a lot closer than I ever imagined they would do at the start of the season. Because I think Mourinho's got that squad galvanised and completely listening and completely in his own image. You're really seeing that now, like the nastiness, the sort of winning games a little bit ugly. I think the big thing is beating like West Brom. They beat them in the last minute pretty much. They weren't brilliant. It's those games actually that could cost Spurs. For Chelsea, I see Chelsea as ahead of Spurs at this moment in time, and the reason I say that is because I think they've just got so many answers. Like, often that's what it kind of comes down to, is like different ways of winning games. And I had a go at Lampard after the Man United game because I was like, he didn't have a go at this. But he said he was building a base. He's trying to build a base. And now a few weeks on, I actually think he has built that base. And I also think, again, going back to those games against teams in mid-table, I think they've got more tools to beat those teams than Spurs do, even if Spurs' tools are really, really sharp, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It's really hard to split them, which is why it's more fascinating because they play each other this weekend.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a real test of whether Lampard and Chelsea are reliant on player quality, because at the moment, if I look at their games, like Chelsea drew 0-0 with Sevilla, 0-0 with United, and those were like little tests to see, can we keep clean sheets? Battered Krasnodar 4-0, battered Burnley 3-0 out form, battered Rennes 3-0 not a great side. Sheffield United 4-1, and Newcastle aside, you don't rate at all. Their next 6 games, I think we're going to see our Chelsea winning games because they've got good players, or are Chelsea winning games because they've got different types of fixes. They play Rennes, they'll batter them, no doubt. Not the best side. Then they play Tottenham. Can he outdo Mourinho? Mourinho's outdone Pep already. Not too much of a difficult task, but it'll be interesting to see, because we've seen when Lampard took on OGS and took on United, he was scared, or he didn't want to take a risk. I was angry, you were angry. Yeah. Is he now going to go to Mourinho and go, all right, you've beaten Chelsea, you've beaten City, you look like title contenders, we're going to prove we're the title contenders, we're going to beat you? I don't think he does that. Then they play Seville, difficult game. Then they play Leeds, difficult game. Krasnodar beat them, then they play Everton. So in this next six-week period, they've probably got 4 difficult games, really difficult games. If they get at the end of this period and we've seen them beat Spurs and Leeds and get a result out of Everton, and manage to win games in other ways apart from real good quality from Ziyech from time to time, which is obviously what you require in a league title race. I think, coming back to something you said ages ago, is if the stars align, who wins the league, Chelsea or Spurs? I think if the stars align, Spurs win the league.
The stars can only align for one team, though. You can't,
Yeah, I know.
Right, if everything works out, you think.
Yeah.
So, right, if the point you're making is if both hit their ceiling, if everything works out and they get every point that they could get, you see Spurs getting more points than Chelsea at the end of the season.
Yeah, the reason being, and Bobby Turner's just asked, the reason being is because, firstly, you got Mourinho, and he is a manager who knows how to win trophies. He is a manager who is possessed at the moment to prove people that he's not expired. Everyone's saying he's finished. You've got Kane, who I think is absolutely blossoming right now. He's arguably one of the best players in the league, in the top 3 at least at the moment. And then you've got Son, who, again, top 3, top 4, top 5 Premier League player. If I go to Chelsea, for example, in my head, I know what Kane's ceiling looks like. I know what Son's ceiling looks like. I know what Højbjerg's ceiling looks like. They've played in the Premier League. They're top players. Then I look at Chelsea and I go, we know what Werner's ceiling looks like, but it's in Bundesliga. I know what all these basically all the Chelsea players, I know what their ceiling looks like in a different league. I ain't seen it here. And I also don't believe, and it's not because I don't like Lampard at all. I really like Lampard. I just don't believe Lampard wins a Premier League title this season with Chelsea competing against Mourinho and competing against Liverpool and competing against Pep. And that's where, really and truly, if I'm defining the reason why I back Spurs, is because if I look at Pep, Klopp, Lampard, Mourinho to win the league this season, Lampard would be 4th of that choice. And that's the actual reason.
Probably be Liverpool though, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's something something you said to me 2 weeks ago, which really was just spot on. If Liverpool win the league this season, considering the injuries they've got, it is probably one of the best title defenses ever. And because Liverpool are beating teams, people are still going, they're just a sick team though. It should happen. When you really think about who's injured, the caliber of talent that's injured in this team, it is literally ridiculous that they've taken on Leicester and beaten them 3-0.